For centuries, Provence has been the picture of the good life. Its golden light has inspired legendary painters. Its villages inspired the writers who sold the world on the dream of the south of France. And for millions of people, that dream is the plan: to live here, to retire here, to wake up here every morning. But is this a place we could live? Well, after spending 3 weeks in Provence during the worst heat wave in recorded history in France, we definitely have some thoughts. In this video, we're taking you to 12 of the most beautiful places in Provence. 5 are the absolute postcard Provence that everyone dreams about. 4 are the villages that are lesser known, but that we quietly fell in love with. And 3 are the cities that we could actually live in. But later in this video, we're going to share with you the 3 deal breakers, the reasons why ultimately we wouldn't live here.
Hi, we're Matt and Dawn. A few years ago, we decided we didn't want to retire, but we didn't want to put off our dreams of living abroad and traveling the world either. So in 2023, we unretired. Now we live, work, and travel from the Silver Coast of Portugal. If you're ready to rewrite the rules of life after 50, hit subscribe so you never miss a new video.
Now, we were in Provence on a 5-week road trip throughout the south of France as part of our broader travels throughout Europe to discover the places that expats are moving to now. In this series on the south of France, we have posted videos on Bordeaux, Dordogne, and southwest coastal France. You can check out all of those videos as well as destinations in Portugal and Spain on our Moving to Europe playlist. But now let's jump into 12 beautiful destinations in Provence. And by the way, we're going to do our best with these pronunciations, but our apologies in advance to the French people. Now, some of Provence's most iconic villages are in the Lourmarin. Now, this is an area of Provence that was first introduced to many Americans and Brits when Peter Mayle published his book, A Year in Provence. Each of these villages offers something a little unique.
Roussillon is a village of just over 1,300 people in the Lourmarin region of Provence. What sets it apart is its extraordinary color palette. If most Provençal villages are painted in soft creams and stone, Roussillon is all warm reds, burnt oranges, and golden ochre. The village sits atop one of Europe's largest natural ochre deposits, giving it a look unlike anywhere else in Provence.
Now, we loved this village. The colors here really are beautiful and very unique among anything else that we saw in Provence. On the day that we were there, it was pretty hot, so we did not do the ochre trail, which is something that is recommended. If we head back, we'll definitely do that on a cooler day and spend more time. But this is absolutely beautiful village.
Gordes is a village of about 1,700 people. What sets it apart is its breathtaking setting. Built into the side of a rocky hillside, the honey-colored stone village seems to rise straight out of the landscape, making it one of the most dramatic and recognizable views in all of Provence.
Now, here's a tip is that the very best way to see Gordes is from a lookout that is just outside of town. This is where you'll get the most spectacular views, but we also enjoyed walking around. I do have to say that by the time that we got to Gordes, we had already been to the Dordogne. We had seen a lot of hilltop villages by this point, so it is beautiful, but we were spoiled. Yeah, we got spoiled.
This is not a village, but it's one of the most iconic views in Provence. Just outside of Gordes, the Abbaye de Sénanque is one of the most recognizable sites in Provence. Every summer, rows of lavender frame the 12th century abbey, creating this postcard image that has come to define the region for many visitors. It's still an active monastery, home to a small community of Cistercian monks.
Now, we were lucky enough to be in Provence during peak lavender season, which is absolutely stunning. We also got very lucky because we got there early in the morning and we had the entire place to ourselves for about an hour.
Ménerbes is a fortified hilltop village in the Lourmarin that dates back to the Middle Ages and is officially recognized as one of France's most beautiful villages. Surrounded by vineyards, orchards, and lavender fields, It became internationally known after Peter Mayle's book, A Year in Provence, introduced it to the millions of readers, helping make it one of Provence's most popular destinations.
Now, we were in Ménerbes during market day, so it was busy and bustling, and we had some time to wander around the village and the market. This is like so many villages in Provence, very charming. This one in particular had really great ceramics, both at the market and the stores. So if you're looking for great ceramics, they're all over Provence, but this town in particular had some really great options.
L'Isle-sur-le-Sorgue is a historic market town built around the branches of the Sorgue River, earning it the nickname the Venice of Provence. Once powered by dozens of water wheels that supported the town's textile and paper industries, it's now best known as one of Europe's largest centers for antiques and brocantes, with hundreds of dealers and renowned antique fairs held each year.
Now, this was actually our second time here, and both the times we came for Sunday market. Now, obviously, this town is super well known. It's the largest collection of antique dealers in the south of France. Our experience is that this is great for selection, not really great on prices. Things here are priced a little bit higher. I do love vintage shopping, but I also love a deal. And so, if you are looking for antiques and budget is not an issue, this might be a really great place to come and search for some unique items. It is a great place just to walk around and get really inspired for sure.
And the Sunday market is really a great place to go, and there are a lot more vintage dealers on Sundays. But even during the week, there are dozens of stores, dozens of antique stores and brocantes that are open during the week. So if you can't be there on Sunday, it is still a good place to go for antique shopping.
Some of the most iconic villages in Provence are in the Lourmarin, but many of the villages that we fell in love with one exception, are located in nearby Alpilles. We liked these villages because they felt a little bit more away from the tourist crowd, a little quieter, and much more livable. The first one is the exception. This one is in the Lourmarin, and that's Lourmarin.
Lourmarin is one of the oldest villages in the Lourmarin and is officially recognized as one of France's most beautiful villages. Unlike many of Provence's hilltop villages, Lourmarin sits in a valley and it's centered around a Renaissance chateau, one of the first of its kind in the region. Today it's known for its lively cafes, weekly market, and vibrant mix of shops, galleries, and restaurants.
Now, this is definitely postcard France. This is a village that we visited our first time in Provence a couple of years ago, and we couldn't wait to go back. This time we were there for Friday market, which is a large market, and we went to a lot of markets in France on this trip, and I think this one was the prettiest, and it had a lot of shade, which we really appreciated as well. The first time that we were here, we were not here for market, but we came for dinner, and I just don't think that there's a bad time of day to be here. This really is one of Provence's prettiest villages.
Maussane-les-Alpilles is a village of about 2,000 people that sits flat, with no castle on a hill and no view to sell. What it has is olives. Some of the best olive oil in France is pressed within a few minutes of the village, and the Thursday market is one of the best in the area.
Now, we were not here for market, but we were here on a quiet evening. We came here for dinner and spent a lot of time just sort of wandering through the neighborhood. This is a very small, quiet village, and it just feels like the place where you could walk out your front door and walk down to the main street and have some dinner or sit outside and watch the World Cup, which is what was happening when we were there. It's just lovely.
Eygalières is a small village perched on a rocky hill in the heart of Provence. Built around the ruins of a medieval castle, it's known for its stone houses, olive groves, and relaxed atmosphere. It's become a favorite for those looking to experience a quieter, more understated side of Provence.
Now, we were here a couple of times. We loved it both times, but the real headline is the vintage market that runs on the last Sunday of the month. I liked this vintage market more than L'Île-sur-le-Sorgue. I thought that the selection was really great. They have professional brocante dealers here. I thought the prices were also really good. There were some of the brocante dealers that were priced a little bit higher, but for the most part, I thought the selection and the prices were great. Next time we go to Provence, we will definitely plan our trip around this last Sunday of the month to be sure that we're at this vintage market again.
Saint-Rémy-de-Provence is one of the best-known towns in Provence. It's where Vincent van Gogh spent a year at the Saint-Paul de Maussane Asylum, creating more than 150 paintings. Today it's known for its lively market, independent shops, and walkable town center.
Now, we ended up wandering around this village for several hours because every time we turned a corner, it felt like there was something new and beautiful to explore. Now, Provence is filled with beautiful postcard villages and those quieter villages that we really liked. But when it comes to everyday living, there were 3 cities that we thought were very livable.
Aix-en-Provence is a city of about 150,000 people in western Provence. Unlike the villages we visited so far, Aix feels unmistakably urban. Elegant boulevards, grand fountains, lively markets, and countless sidewalk cafes give the city a sophisticated energy. Often considered the cultural heart of Provence, Aix offers all of the amenities of city living while still feeling deeply connected to the region around it.
Aix has plenty of cafes and restaurants, and there's a market here 3 days a week. I think something that is a little bit more unique here is that you could actually live here without a car. It's a very walkable city. There are trains to Paris and to the Marseille airport. So this is a city that kind of offers it all, that Provence lifestyle without necessarily being in a small village.
Smaller than Aix-en-Provence, Arles offers a slower pace of life while still feeling vibrant year-round. The city is famous for its remarkably preserved Roman monuments and for inspiring Vincent van Gogh, who created more than 300 works here.
Now, we first stayed in Arles when we were here 2 years ago, and we spent a lot of time wandering around the town, seeing the Roman ruins, sitting outside at cafes. We both really like this town. One of our favorite features of this town is the market, which is absolutely huge. This is one of the largest markets in Provence with 450 vendors across 2.5 kilometers. One of the things I really like about this market is that some of the markets really feel like they cater towards tourists with lots of souvenirs, which is great. But Arles really feels like a market where you go to do your weekly shopping. And so we went back this time. We were there on market day again. This is a town, I think I like this one even more than Aix. What do you think?
Oh, I think so too. I think that, this is a town that's a good mix for tourists as well as for residents. Salon-de-Provence is a lively city that often flies under the radar. Best known as the home of Nostradamus, it's also home to one of the largest medieval castles in Provence. With a bustling town center, traditional markets, and a more local feel than many of the region's better-known destinations, Salon offers a different side of Provence.
Now, we actually spent a lot of time here because this is the city that was closest to where we were staying, so we did a lot of grocery shopping and errands here. But the highlight for us was the Friday night market. Now, the morning markets in Provence run year-round, but in the summertime, when it is so hot, these night markets happen just seasonally, often in June, July, and August. So for us, we went out, we sat outside and had dinner, listened to some live music, wandered the market, had some ice cream for dessert. This is just a lovely evening out, and Salon-de-Provence is just beautiful.
I think a lot of the villages around here have these nighttime activities. Well, they may not be markets, they have nighttime activities. It's a way to get people out and involved in the city in the evening when it's a little bit cooler. So those are 12 of the most beautiful places in Provence, and it's easy to see why people fall in love with this area of France. But even though we loved visiting, there are 3 deal breakers for us that would actually rule it out for us living there. Now, these are just our criteria and opinions, and so you may have different deal breakers, or maybe there are no deal breakers for you. We'd love to hear about that in the comments below.
So the first deal breaker is the heat. We were here in late June where France was experiencing record-breaking temperatures. This was actually the second heat wave of the year, and there was a third one that happened just as we were leaving. Now, I can't say that we suffered too much because we were staying in a beautiful home that had air conditioning and a pool. But what that did mean is we ended up cutting our itinerary by quite a bit because we would get out early in the morning and then we're back at the house by mid-morning because it was just too hot to be outside. And then we would go out late in the evening, usually after 7 p.m., which meant that we were indoors most of the day. Matt joked that it was like we were mole people. And we have lived in very hot climates before, and we personally just don't really enjoy being inside all day during summer. We really love a more temperate climate like where we live on the Silver Coast, where we can be outside all day in summertime. So for us, the heat in Provence would be a deal breaker, and one of the reasons that as much as we love it, we would not consider living here.
A second deal breaker was walkability. Now, look, there are these beautiful small villages all over Provence, and we explored only a small number of what seems like hundreds and hundreds of these kinds of villages. But they are all drives between these villages, and quite long drives on, rural roads. If you live in one of these villages, well, it's walkable in that village. It's not walkable to get to anywhere else. Don't get me wrong, in some of the bigger cities like Aix-en-Provence or in Arles, you can have a car-free life there, or at least a car-parked life there if you wanted to, because so much of that is walkable. But for us, the fact that we spent so much time in the car, it just did not feel walkable enough.
Yeah, that's true. The village that we were staying in had no services at all, which is fine. Now, there are villages where you can walk down to a boulangerie or a pharmacy, but for major things, like we did have to go to the grocery store several times, and it ended up being an hour just to run a simple errand. Even in a town like Aix, where it is walkable, when you combine that with the heat, you don't really want to be out walking around a city in the heat. And so I think you combine those things, and it's kind of compounding in terms of these are deal breakers for us. Again, this may not be a deal breaker for you, but for us, we would rule it out.
Yeah, I'm sure other than summer, it's beautifully walkable in Aix-en-Provence and in Arles, but in the summer at noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, walkability is not a factor. It's just so hot.
Yeah. Now, the third deal breaker is cost, or more specifically, really value for your money. Real estate in Provence is very expensive. And when you consider that there are other parts of the south of France where you can get real estate for significantly less, such as Occitanie, where you can still have that Mediterranean lifestyle and pay about half of what you would pay in Provence, or over in Nouvelle-Aquitaine, where there are many regions where you can get more for your money. I think this is something that we would be looking at. And again, although Provence is beautiful, and I'm sure that we would go there often, I think that there are other parts of the south of France that just provide a much better value for your money when it comes to real estate. Now, if you want to know more about some of the other regions in the south of France, you can check out our recent Bordeaux video and Dordogne video here. Thanks for watching.